Today's lesson is going to be looking at bones, but we're going to be specifically looking at how they move, and that's in association with muscles. Specifically, the learning objectives for today's lesson are to describe the different types of movement at a joint, and these can be broadly categorized as flexion and extension, abduction and adduction, rotation and circumduction. There are some key words that I'd like you to know. These are the ones I just mentioned, and we're also going to include inversion and eversion. As ever, there's key words that you should know, and you will understand these through reading pages out of your textbook. So it's only reading a couple of pages, 215 to 260. So when we talk about movement at a joint, it's actually movement of the skeleton which is aided by the skeletal muscles. So when we talk about flexion and extension, that's the first pair we're going to look at. We talk about these in pairs because they are opposites of each other. You can see in this little stick figure, we've got this person's arm is up, and you can see where the radius and the ulnar are, that is moving towards the humerus, so that's decreasing the angle at the joint there, whereas when you have extension, the angle is increased, and that's like back to 180. Similarly with abduction and adduction, they are opposites of each other, and you can see that through these little cartoon pictures here. And circumduction and rotation, equally, these are opposites. The first thing we're going to be looking at is flexion and extension. What you need to know about these is the definitions first of all. So flexion is decreasing the angle at a joint, whereas extension is the opposite. It is increasing the angle at a joint. So the areas of the body where flexion and extension would occur would be at the knee and elbow joints. Here we can see those in action. So flexion, you're decreasing the ankle. So this would be the typical flexing your muscles type pose. That's where that phrase comes from. And then extension, you are relaxing the bicep here, and the tricep is going into contraction to extend the arm outwards. We have the reverse situation here with the knee joint. So we have flexion, you're actually, even though you think that it should be bringing the leg up, the muscles that are contracting are underneath the quadriceps. So when you have flexion, you are bringing the knee down, and you can see that you're creating a 90-degree angle here. Whereas with extension, the leg is straight out and you are contracting the quadriceps instead of the hamstrings. I think I got that wrong the first time. And what you're doing here is you're extending the leg, so therefore that angle is increasing. The next pair that we're going to be looking at is abduction and adduction. So abduction is the movement of a limb away from the body, whereas adduction is movement of a limb towards the body. So a bit of a tip here is the word add. So you're adding limbs towards the body. So adduction is towards the body, abduction away. Example of that is the shoulder joint, when you put your arms by your sides. So here we can see adduction, you're putting the arm by your side, whereas abduction, you're increasing that angle and you're taking that arm away from the body. Next thing we're going to be looking at is circumduction. So circumduction makes you think of circumference. It's a rotary movement, and this is movement around a joint. So if you think about doing a windmill motion with your arms, that is an example of circumduction, and we're giving you an example of the shoulder joint here. So in this diagram, you can see it's a full 360-degree rotation. This is circumduction. A couple of other movements that I'd like you to know about are plantar flexion, so flexing, And so at this point, you are pointing your toes. So you might have heard of the condition plantar fasciitis. So that's when the tendons at the bottom of your feet get inflamed and sore. So plantar, so when you plant your foot, so you're pointing your toes. So plantar flexion, and then you have dorsiflexion, and this is when you pull your toes up and you can feel the muscles at the front of your shin engaging to pull those toes up. On the other side here, we've got eversion, and this is when we rotate the foot outwards away from the body. And inversion, we're pulling the foot, we're rotating it towards the midline of the body. So these diagrams again, plantar flexion, we are pointing the toes down, and you can see we're increasing the angle here between the foot and the ankle. And in dorsiflexion, we're pulling our toes up and we're increasing that angle. And if we have a look at eversion and inversion, you can see eversion is moving away from the midline of the body, whereas inversion, we're pulling the foot towards the center of the body. Another type of movement which becomes quite important when you study Year 12 human biology, and that's the opposition of the fingers and the thumb. Now, this is a really important evolutionary mechanism that sets us apart from other primates, the ability to actually pull our thumb across and touch each of our fingers. So this is called opposition, and when we put our thumb back, it's called reposition. Lastly, we're going to be looking at rotation, and this is when a bone moves around a whole limb or a single axis. So rotation of the leg, of the lower leg, when you swivel your knee in and out, you might think of that happening here. That is lateral rotation, so you're moving the arm or the leg away from the body. And medial rotation, you're moving it towards the body. So medial, middle, towards the body. Lateral is the opposite, which is away. So if you rotate your hand or your foot around, you're actually engaging your leg in that, or your arm in that medial or lateral rotation. Okay, so that was a quick lesson today, guys. If you want to look at this in further detail, this crash course video is a really good one to watch. I would start it at 5.55 minutes to get to the part about the joints and that type of movement. Okay, just to finish off, again, please make sure you read those pages out of the textbook and complete pages 11 and 12 of your class booklet to consolidate your learning.